A very good evening and thank you for joining GPS News at 9. My name is Stephen George and our sign language interpreter tonight is Ivy Kamau. To our first story, President William Ruto has today stated on his readiness to face his opponents in the 2027 general elections. Speaking at State House Nairobi during his meeting with the Federation of Evangelical and Indigenous Christian Churches of Kenya leaders, the president promised that those speaking ill about his administration have no plan for the growth of the country. At the same time, the church has the president for the effort to repair a church at these State House. Let's have a look.
Mimi niko kwa tayari kwa mtihani. Hiyo mtihani tutafanya 2027. Mimi niko tayari kwa hiyo mtihani. Yes. Mtakuja mniulize. Mambo ya uchumi mtajibu. Mambo ya kilimo mtajionea wenyewe. Mambo ya SHA mtaniambia. Mambo ya affordable housing na mambo ya markets na mambo ya hostels na mambo ya ajira ya vijana mtaniambia. Na mtaniambia nani yako na mpango bora kuliko hii mimi niko naye. Hawa majamaa wengine hawawezi kuwaambia mambo ya uchumi because they don't know and they don't have a plan. Hawawezi kuwaambia mambo ya masomo ya watoto wetu because they don't know and they don't have a plan. Hawawezi kuwaambia chochote, watawaambia Ruto must go. One term. Kasongo. Sasa simu mawasikia? Wamewaeleza mambo ya kilimo hata siku moja? Wako na mpango tofauti ya ile mimi niko nayo ya mambo ya matibabu? So that is the reality, my friends.
My youth man, ningependa kuongea hivi niwaambiaje, nimekuja hapa kwenyu nikiwa na moyo mzito sana, lakini niko na matumaini kwa sababu nimekuwa nikifuata hizi mahariba zenye zinaendelea huku mtaani, za fujo na vurugu, maandamano, na tumeona yani hakuna mwelekeo yenye tuko nayo. Tunafaa kukuwa na tumaini kwa sababu sisi ndio taifa ya kesho. Sisi ndio nguvu ya hii taifa na tunafaa kutumia hiyo nguvu kujenga dreams zetu, si ati kwenda kuvuruga, ati tunaenda kuchoma, tunaenda kuwashanari huko kwa barabara tukitupanga madimanga, kwa sababu pali umeenda umechoma hiyo biashara ni ya mkoro wako, ni ya mzae wako, ni ya sistako, ni ya babako.
Wale ambao wanapiga kelele ndio tumewaruhusu na sisi hatuna kelele. Ndio unakuta the same people ndio wanapinga hii altar ambao tunaweka hapa. Na wale wanaipinga hao wenyewe wakati tulikuwa colonized in this nation, ndio walikuwa wanatoka pale wanakuja hapa kuombea governor. Mimi nasema hivi, ukiona mtu ambaye anapinga altar, unless you are an antichrist.
Moving on swiftly, Kenya has become a political field whether the country is in or out of elections. Now, as we are midway to another general election, our politicians are busy crisscrossing the country, campaigning, never minding real national development is put aside. A lot of public money is sent on these campaign rallies. To add salt to the injury, politicians continue to divide the country along tribal lines as they preach hatred. Now, the country seems to be staring at a catastrophe if the trend is not tamed.
For a student studying political science, Kenya would be the best ground for study and research. Right from the head of state to the grassroots leader, the script remains the same in Kenya.
Lakini mualifu, mtu ambaye amechukua kazi kwenda kuvunja biashara ya mtu mwingine, ashughulikiwe, aende hospitali, akienda kotini.
When they open their mouths to talk, our leaders never look before they leap. With their carefree nature, they spew venomous utterances that make one shudder.
Wakati jana umesema shoot but do not kill. I want to repeat it here. In fact, shoot and kill.
As we wait for the next general elections in 2027, the writing is now on the wall that it might just be another travesty of elections. Over the weekend, Wajir MP Fatma Abdi brazenly remarked in broad daylight,
Sisi kama wabunge wa North Eastern, nikiongea kutoka Wajir, sisi maneno ya His Excellency the President, sisi maneno yetu ni mafupi tu. Tunasema tu 2 term. Ama kuna maneno mengine? 2 term. Sio? Si tunaongojea tu debe iletwe, hata kama hatutakuwa na votes, tutamuibia. Hiyo si siri. Asanteni.
But believe me not, Fatma was just confirming what Kapseret MP Oscar Sudi had just alluded to some weeks ago.
Kwani hii kazi tunafanya si ndio kuomba kura? Si ndio tunazidi kuomba kura? Si nyinyi mtajaza? Si kura lazima ijae. Isipojaza tunajaza na watu. Si hata tunajaza na mawe, tutajaza na kura. Tunaenda Ukambani tunaomba, tunaenda wapi tunaomba, tunaenda kila mahali tunaomba. Wale watatupigia na tukiona kidogo haijai tunaomba ya kujaza, yani lazima ijae. Lazima kura ijae. So msijisumbue, nyinyi muombe kura na mtembee na mfanye kazi. Jengeni hata toilet. Jengeni hata kitu hapo. Mko na slogan ya kutembea naye, muache kukem. Sasa niwaulize nyinyi wananchi. Kama mtu anaomba kura hapa Kapseret, tunashindana na yeye. Alafu kila akisimama tu Sudi lazima aende nyumbani. Akisimama tu anaambia kuna mtoto mgonjwa hapa, anasema hapana, Sudi lazima aende nyumbani. Akaambia kuna kanisa inataka ijengwe hapa, anasema Sudi lazima aende nyumbani.
Karibu. Funga. Fungua.
How about the jobs? This is DCP party leader Rigathi Gachagua having transported their Kenyanized political innuendos in America, where he is on a 1-month sabbatical.
Raila is totally irrelevant in the Kenyan political discourse.
Hi Bruce. Hi sis. Hi cousins. Hi in-laws. Hi diaspora. Asante sana. Thank you very much.
Sio mtu ni mjinga kupendukia. Sasa hii group ya kina Munyoro ni wakumbafu ya mwisho. Kazi yao tu William Ruto. Hata akiota usiku, hata ukuuliza Dorcas, lazima huyo mtu anawataka William Ruto.
All said and done. At this stage we seek guidance from our sage, Senior Counsel George Haminwa.
But I would like to say this. They may not be happy to hear what I'm going to say at all. This country has been most unfortunate. We have had a crop of politicians who are not, one cannot be proud of at all. Our politicians, majority of them, are second class. They do not deserve much respect at all. And no wonder that the young people, oh, they want me to go. Yeah, no wonder that we have the young people going through what they're going through.
Moving on swiftly, Member of Parliament of Game constituency, Elisha Odhiambo, has lashed out at former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, accusing him of dragging Kenya security institutions into political theatrics and describing such actions as dangerous and irresponsible. Addressing women leaders in Mutumbu North Game, Odhiambo emphasized that the police, military and national intelligence service are guardians of the national sovereignty and not political play. Now, warning that attempts to weaken them for selfish gain will not be tolerated.
Last week, I saw Wamunyoro with a kofia that the people of Game normally use when you are looking after goats. When he was boarding a plane. You know, when you are going to represent a country outside there, you should dress in a way that reflects the country called Kenya. You know, Wamunyoro is known as the worst tribal chieftain in the Republic of Kenya. Even in America, he was only meeting the Kikuyu community and dancing reggae with his wife in America. I've never seen a pastor dancing reggae. And before he left, Wamunyoro accused NIS of having formed a group that is kidnapping Kenyans. That is totally false. Wamunyoro knows that Haji, who is heading NIS, their responsibility is to collect that information, and provide that information to DCI so that DCI can act. To mislead Kenyans and to be able to talk against institutions that represent our national unity is out of order. Is completely out of order. Then later, he chooses to talk about Dr. Raymond Omolo. And he says that Raymond Omolo is the one heading in that direction of sending police to beat the public, to beat demonstrators in the public. We, as a community, we are in broad-based government to stay. If you want to go, please go quickly.
Moving on swiftly, residents of Game constituency have been urged to support security agencies in the hunt for suspect serial killer believed to be behind a series of brutal murders targeting young girls and women in the area. Game Member of Parliament Elisha Dhiambo, while addressing grassroots women leaders in Mutumbu, North Game constituency, assured the public that the government is taking all necessary steps to apprehend the suspect, cautioning against politicizing the insecurity. Now, meanwhile, professionals from the area led by Kisumu City Manager Abala Wanga are calling for an urgent stakeholder security meeting, warning that Game risks losing its legacy of academic excellence and peace if the security trend continues.
I'm calling upon the public and the people of Game to remain calm. Everything possible is being done by government and being done by security agencies to make sure that the killer is brought to book. The police have already done searches in the houses where he goes to stay. They've taken a couple of his clothes and a lot of documents that he works with. And now he's somewhere in Game, but we'll get him. His time is numbered. The politics of insecurity that is tipping in is just a tip in the iceberg, but the security agencies have given me enough support to ensure that Games get back to normal. We are also augmenting the number of officers that we have, and I'm sure they'll be doing a couple of things in the couple of 4 days.
The killings of innocent people have become a worrying trend in just one constituency in Siaya, and action must be taken. The right to life is not only enshrined in our constitution, but also a moral right for all of us. We can't have a scenario where the Great Game constituency, known to widely be to the public as a pioneer source of academic elites and civilized people, now turning into a human slaughterhouse with wanton killings. We, as the community and major stakeholders, hereby recommend the following.
Well, it is time for us to take a short break. Keep streaming through our social media platform at GBS TV Africa. The SMS line is 21114. We'll be right back.
Anza wiki yako kwa njia sahihi kwa GBS Jumatatu.
Niko nawe hadi mida ya saa 4 asubuhi. Kwanza niseme asante kwa kuzidi kufuatilia na kutazama vipindi vyetu ambavyo huwa tunakuandalia hapa ndani ya GBS TV Jumatatu. People are now seeing the money that have been given to church as a bribe.
Jiunge nasi kila Jumatatu asubuhi kuanzia saa 1:30.
Nimesikia mwenzangu akifanya hesabu hapo ya vile ambavyo miungano zitakuwa. Ruto is going to fail whether with Raila or without Raila.
Kuna mahali anakosea akisema ati Raila na Ruto wataungana. Hakuna kuungana iko hapo, ndugu yangu, acha nikwambie ukweli.
Hadithi za kunoga.
Ukiangalia Wakenya, wananchi wa Kenya, pia hao maisha yao imedhulumiwa kwa kuongezwa kwa taxes, ziko very high taxes. So the statement by Rigathi Gachagua is just statement ya kumcheck that we can see you we can see between the lines.
Na mazungumzo yenye nguvu ya kukuletea utulivu kwa wiki yako.
Ati Raila ataingia UDA.
Hiyo ni ndoto. Mimi yote nasema
hawezi, sababu
nasema hivi mheshimiwa, ikiwa
Raila itakuwa, mimi naona itakuwa
hadi saa 4 za asubuhi kwa majadiliano ya kusisimua.
Mheshimiwa Rais William Samoei Ruto ajue ya kwamba sasa yeye ni president wa Kenya. Sio mambo ya kufanyia wana Kenya mzaha. Kupoteza biashara kwa siku moja katika CPD, nafikiria ni jambo ambalo ni rahisi.
Usikose, ingia kwenye GPS TV. Anza Jumatatu yako kwa kusudi.
If the government does not spend, my brother, hakuna maendeleo inaonekana, hakuna barabara zinatengenezwa, hakuna dawa kwa hospitali, my friend, economies will not grow.
Tuonane panapo majaliwa yake Mwenyezi Mungu.
GPS Jumatatu, palipo
everywhere, GBS.
And welcome back now to international news. South African G20 presidency representation wants to find new ways to lessen debt burdens and provide better financing in developing nations. High borrowing costs continue to deter investment and choke public spending on health, education and infrastructure programs. The goal of the meeting is also to look at the causes of debt, according to Russia's Kasim, deputy governor of the South African Reserve Bank. Developing nations argue that the current financial system is one of the reasons for the persisting inequalities. African countries hope reforms could help achieve the sustainable development goals.
Our presidency places a very strong emphasis on strengthening the role of the G20 in delivering concrete solutions, fostering a more stable and effective and resilient international financial architecture, enhancing debt sustainability, addressing liquidity challenges, as well as strengthening multilateral development banks and ensuring financing for development.
One of the things we want to bring to light in this meeting is really kind of not only look at the symptoms of debt, but the causes of debt, and to provide more runway that our predecessors have done in taking the debt issues further.
This global financial architecture is the one behind the current debt crisis that we find ourselves in, the poverty that the developing world finds itself in, and much of the economic challenges that haunt the rest of the global south.
Has been laid to rest in a Muslim-led ceremony attended by President Bola Tinubu. The late Buhari was yesterday accorded a state send-off in his Dura residence in Katsina State. The late Buhari passed on in London on Sunday in a hospital bed while receiving treatment.
Thank you all Nigerians, and I'm appealing for all Nigerians to forgive Baba, whoever is having any grip for him.
Former Nigerian President Muhammad Buhari has now taken his place in living memory as Nigeria's 7th head of state to depart the world. Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu led a delegation of state officials plus other dignitaries pay last respect to the late Buhari as he was accorded a state burial in his residence in Daura in Katsina State. The late Buhari died on Sunday in a hospital in London where he was receiving treatment after a long illness. His departure from the earth plunged Nigeria into a national mourning. The federal government of Nigeria announcing a one-week mourning period and flags flown half-mast in his honor. Thousands of mourners stand up for the Islamic customs-led ritual led by the chief imam. Buhari, born in 1942, first led Nigeria through the military in 1983 to 1984. Again, he democratically ruled the West African nation by civilian rule in 2015 to 2023. He is remembered for his austerity measures, anti-corruption crusades, as well as infrastructural development during his tenure.
If he had died about 3 years ago, I think it would have been better. Dying now, I don't see anything good in it. If he had died about 3 years ago, maybe Osinbajo would have taken over it, and then it would have been a good choice for the country.
There were a lot of hardship, and so the expectation people had in mind before his coming into office was dashed. The corruption that people thought he was going to fight with, it was not like that. In fact, people saw more corruption during his tenure than they thought would have happened in any other administration.
I remember those years he was crying that he wanted to rule Nigeria. The second time, probably there were things he thought he needed to correct, and God gave him that second chance. He came, he ruled us for 8 years, and today is no more. So for me, it's life well spent, and we ask that God repose his soul.
Victor the ambassador.
An initiative by the United Nations Mission in South Sudan is helping to strengthen the judicial system in areas where formal justice has been absent for far too long. Leit Nohom is one of the many locations across South Sudan where formal justice has been absent for far too long. For more than 5 years, there has been no judge or prosecutor with knowledge of statutory law present in the remote area of Warab State. Living residents reliant on customary courts and military detention processes to hold perpetrators of crime accountable.
In a quiet corner of Warab State, South Sudan, justice is finally making a long-awaited return. For over 5 years, the people of Leit Nohom have lived without a judge or prosecutor. In the absence of a formal justice system, residents had to rely on customary courts or even military detention to resolve disputes and punish crimes, often with serious consequences.
Lack of judges also is a problem. Now in across Gorial, Warab State, there are 2 counties that are no judge. One is Gorial East, we are in now. Another one is Tony East. There are no judge, and there are no prosecutor. Because of lack of judges and lack of prosecutor, lack of accommodation, there are no office. There are not office. There is no building. There are no all this. So a lot of challenges we can face it in the area of the prosecutors.
When the United Nations Mission in South Sudan sent its rule of law team to review outstanding cases, they uncovered disturbing patterns. People jailed without knowing why, misidentified suspects, and incorrect sentences.
I really don't know my offense. I don't know my crime. I was taken from the courtside and put in a container, and suddenly I ended up in a prison.
But change came quickly. Working with the Kuajok High Court, the mission team helped secure the immediate release of at least 40 detainees.
Processes.
The arrival of a judge and public prosecutor was embraced.
I was positively surprised by the way that the second-grade magistrate was received in Leit Nohom, especially by the customary courts, because in some contexts we see that there is a bit of a friction between customary courts and county courts, where the customary courts sometimes feel that the statutory courts are overstepping and taking away their cases and undermining their importance. But here we saw that the judge got a very positive reception.
By the end of the week, the overcrowded prison in Leit Nohom was nearly empty. Just 9 inmates remained. For those released, it was more than freedom. It was a fresh start. The initiative by the UN mission, it's about more than reviewing cases. It's about restoring dignity, rebuilding trust, and giving people their lives back. Susan Nganga, GBS News, South Sudan.
The UN Secretary General is deeply concerned about ongoing violence in Sweden, southern Syria, which has caused dozens of casualties, including civilians. UN spokesperson Stephanie has said the Secretary General condemns arbitrary killings, sectarian incitement, and looting, urging local authorities to de-escalate tensions, protect civilians, and hold those responsible accountable. He also raised concern over Israeli attacks in Syria, calling for respect of the country's sovereignty. The Secretary General stressed the need for a political transition under Security Council Resolution 2254. Humanitarian efforts remain suspended as basic services and access are disrupted, but the UN is preparing to respond when possible.
On the Syrian front, I can tell you that the Secretary General is deeply concerned over the continued violence that we have seen in the Druze majority area in Suwaida Governorate in southern Syria, which has resulted in dozens of casualties, including among civilians. He is disturbed by reports of arbitrarily killings of civilians, sectarian incitement, and the looting of private property. He condemns all violence against civilians, especially acts that risk inflaming sectarian tensions. The Secretary General urges the interim authorities and local leaders to immediately de-escalate and to protect civilians, to restore calm, and of course to prevent any further incitement to violence. He further urges the interim authorities to transparently and openly investigate and hold to account those responsible for what we have seen. The Secretary General is also concerned by Israel's airstrikes on Syrian territory and calls on Israel to refrain from violations of Syria's independence, its sovereignty, and its territorial integrity. The Secretary General underscores it is imperative to support a credible, orderly, and inclusive political transition in Syria in line with the key principles of Security Council Resolution 2254. Our humanitarian partners in Suwaida report that medical services are overstretched and that markets and basic services such as electricity, water, education have been disrupted. UN aid operations are still suspended in the impacted areas as movements along the main roads are disrupted, but we're mobilizing to be able to respond once again as the situation allows it.
We are taking a short break. Keep streaming into our social media platform at GBS TV Africa. The SMS line is 244. We'll be right back.
Hello, kids. Did you know a year has 31,557,600 seconds? Why do you think so? Exactly. There are 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour, 24 hours in a day, and 365 and 25 days in a year. We count the extra 0.25 because of leap years. When you multiply all these numbers together, you get a huge number of seconds. That's why a year feels long, but time still flies when you are having fun.
Everywhere, GBS.
And welcome back. Nearly 900 Palestinians have been killed in Gaza in recent weeks while trying to access food, with 674 deaths occurring near private aid sites run by the controversial U.S. and Israeli-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. According to the UN Humanitarian Rights Office, the GHF AIDS hubs, which began operating independently of the UN on the 27th of May, have been linked to a sharp rise in violence, including the latest deadly incident of the 14th of July in Rafah, where Israeli forces allegedly shelled and opened fire on civilians seeking food, killing 2 and injuring at least 9 people.
As of the 13th of July, we have recorded 875 people killed in Gaza while trying to get food. 674 of them were killed in the vicinity of GHF sites. 875 people killed while trying to get food. 674 of them killed in the vicinity of the GHF sites, and the remaining 201 killed on the routes of aid convoys or near aid convoys. These aid convoys can be by the UN or other humanitarian organizations, but as you know, there are very few of them in the Gaza Strip, unfortunately.
We have screened over 240,000 children against malnutrition. 10% of those children screened, or 1 in 10, have been diagnosed with malnutrition.
We should recall that international law is very clear about this in terms of the obligations of the occupying power. Bringing about permanent demographic change inside the occupied territory may amount to a war crime and is tantamount to ethnic cleansing.
As summer reaches its peak, so does the excitement around global travel, and now one of the industry's most respected awards has revealed where travelers want to be. The results of the 2025 Telegraph Travel Awards are in, with more than 20,000 readers casting their votes. And topping the list for an astonishing 7th year in a row is a city known for its breathtaking beauty, vibrant culture, and unforgettable experiences. Here is more on the city that continues to capture the hearts of the travelers worldwide.
The results of the 2025 Telegraph Travel Awards are in, and once again, Cape Town takes the crown as the world's best city. For the 7th year running, more than 20,000 readers of the Telegraph voted for the South African city, ahead of Sevilla and Sydney, solidifying its place at the top of global travel lists. Cape Town's appeal is undeniable, with the iconic Table Mountain, the lively Victorian Alfred waterfront, and nearby colonies and vineyards. It offers a perfect mix of natural beauty and cultural richness. Its unique architecture and dramatic coastline only add to the city's unforgettable charm. Tourism numbers reflect this growing love. And in 2024, Cape Town's airport saw a record of 10.4 million passengers. From the Telegraph to Time Out, experts and travelers alike agree that Cape Town isn't just a destination, it's the world's favorite city. Elvin Muyodi, GBS News.
At least 139 civilians have been killed and 700 injured in Ukraine so far this month amid intense missile and drone strikes by Russian forces. According to UN Human Rights Office, speaking in Geneva, spokesperson Liz detailed a surge in attacks, including a record of 700 drones launched on the 9th of July and a major oversight assault on the 12th of July involving 500 drones and 26 missiles, causing widespread damage far from the front lines. June already marked the deadliest month in the 3 years, with 232 killed and 1,000 injured.
According to our latest information, so far this month, at least 139 civilians have reportedly been killed and 791 injured in Ukraine, amid intense and successive waves of missile and drone strikes launched by the Russian Federation. In an overnight attack on the 12th of July, Russian armed forces reportedly deployed 597 Shahed loitering munitions and decoy drones and 26 missiles. 2 civilians were killed and 41 reportedly injured. Damage to civilian infrastructure was reported across several regions, including Chernivtsi, Lviv, Cherkasy, Volyn and Kirovohrad, far away from the front lines. On the 9th of July alone, Russian armed forces launched a record number of long-range drones against Ukraine, 728. July has brought no respite for civilians in Ukraine after June, which, according to our monitoring, saw the highest monthly number of civilian deaths and injuries in 3 years, in fact, since May 2022. There were 232 people killed and 1,343 injured. The High Commissioner also highlights that it is vital that any negotiations focus on a coordinated push as immediate steps to end attacks that affect civilians, to protect the rights of people in occupied territory, return forcibly transferred or deported children, establish humanitarian corridors across the line of control, and end the torture and ill treatment of prisoners of war and other detainees. He urges the Russian Federation and Ukraine to commit to a full exchange of prisoners of war. Resolving the fate of civilian detainees also needs to remain high on the agenda.
The U.S. president spoke to reporters on Tuesday after agreeing to one deal, this time with Indonesia, that will see the country's goods hit with a 19% tariff, down from the 32% that Trump had said the country will face from 1st of August. U.S. goods will be able to enter Indonesia free from all duties. Trump said Treasury Secretary Scott and Commerce Secretary Howard were now keen to land more deals.
$92 billion, but it's going to be closer to $100 billion is going to be invested by the biggest financial people in the world. So we had everybody there from Larry Fink to everybody else you can imagine.
President Donald Trump has said that letters will soon be going out to many smaller countries, which will face a rate of a little over 10%. It's drawn up of a list of U.S. imports worth about $84 billion that could be targeted.
So we made a deal with Indonesia. I spoke to their really great president, very popular, very strong, smart, and we made the deal. We have full access to Indonesia, everything. As you know, Indonesia is very strong on copper. But we have full access to everything. We will pay no tariffs. So they are giving us access into Indonesia, which we never had. That's probably the biggest part of the deal. And the other part is they are going to pay 19%, and we are going to pay nothing. I think it's a good deal for both parties. But we will have full access into Indonesia.
That includes Boeing jets, bourbon whiskey, and cars. The list was sent to member states and seen by the press on Tuesday. It predates Trump's weekend move to ramp up pressure on the bloc, instead of being a response to his earlier duties on cars and car parts.
What's happening, as you know, is the European Union, if you look, mostly European Union stuff, but let's put it in the form of NATO. It's very similar. But NATO is going to pay us back for everything. In some cases, we're going to be paid back by countries of the European Union directly. We're always getting our money back in full. So we're not going to have any more investment to make. We're getting our money back in full. And if we can make a deal, that'd be great. We're saving 5,000 or 6,000 soldiers a week. They're Russian and they're Ukrainian soldiers. They're not American soldiers. And we won't have boots on the ground. But it's a shame. 5,000, last week they say 7,100 soldiers, both Russian and Ukraine, were killed.
Like other places, the EU has until August 1st to negotiate a deal.
We have always been very clear that we prefer a negotiated solution. This remains the case, and we will use the time that we have now till the 1st of August. Since the very beginning, we have worked and now are ready to respond with countermeasures. We've prepared for this, and we can respond with countermeasures if necessary.
European officials say the 30% trade will end normal trade between two of the world's biggest markets.
Caribbean countries, African countries, you have a huge amount of countries that are small, and the president's just going to deal with them sort of the way he thinks is the right way to deal with them.
We'll probably set one tariff for all of them. Over 10%, yeah.
15, 20.
We don't do a lot of business, but we do, it's still significant. Israel's going to be fine. We had a great victory with Israel. That was a great, great victory. What we did with the B-2 bombers and all of that. And I never thought of it, but so many people are thanking me. They say no president had the guts to do it because, this has been going on for 25 years. In fact, when the pilots came to the Oval Office, they said, sir, we and our predecessors have been working on this attack for 25 years.
Davis Karani for GBS News.
Well, it is time for your favorite segment of the show, the sports news. Let's get sporty. Kenya intensifies preparation for their debut appearance at the 2024 African Nation Championship CHAN. Kenya is in Group A with two-time champions DR Congo, North African giants Morocco, as well as Angola and Zambia. Two of Africa's most consistent CHAN competitors, Harambee Stars, have pitched camp at the Moi International Sports Center Kasarani, where they are preparing for their opening match against DR Congo.
Harambee Stars coach Benny McCarthy has expressed his disappointment at having to drop players, but says it is necessary in order to assemble a strong squad to represent the nation at the upcoming CHAN tournament. He also noted that he cannot influence the decision of any players considering moves to European clubs, even if it means losing them for the tournament.
It's been a good camp. Yesterday was a very tough day for me because I had to do something that I hate doing, and that's to disappoint players because you have to trim the squad down. So I had to let some players that I thought trained really well, worked well, but unfortunately there's you have a number that you have to reach, and the squad has to be that number, and unfortunately, I had to disappoint some players, but so it's never a nice thing. So I had to be the bad cop yesterday. But I wish the players well, and I hope they continue to work as well as they did to get themselves in this situation to be part of the national team. But now it's just to go back to their clubs and work even harder to get themselves back to here because they have the quality. So other than the bad news yesterday, everything was good. The players they looked really fit and healthy, and even though after a long season and they had 1 week break, but they came back with good physical abilities, and and you see, slowly but surely, I think we're getting to our goal, and by the time CHAN comes, I think the squad will be ready, and they'll be fighting to make Kenyans proud of them for representing them in the CHAN, and that's basically it.
One of the team's high-profile players and recent Kenya Premier League winner, Mohamed Bajaba, was seen training individually with the fitness coach. The coach explained that Bajaba is still recovering from an injury and is not yet ready to endure the intensity of full first-team training. President William Ruto also attended one of the team's training sessions to meet with the players. Although the meeting was held behind closed doors, he assured the team of his full support as they prepare for the tournament.
With now less than 3 weeks to the 2024 African Nations Championship, Kenya's national football team, Harambee Stars, are scheduled to play their Group A matches at Kasarani Stadium, where they have been training at Kasarani Annex. Reporting for GBS TV Sports, I am John Kinyanjui.
Barcelona's star Lamine Yamal is under fire following reports that individuals with dwarfism were hired as entertainers at his 18th birthday party last weekend. Spain's Ministry of Social Rights has called for a formal investigation, with officials saying the practice is degrading and outdated. Well, we have come to the end of the news bulletin. It is always a pleasure having you on board. Let's do this again next time. Same channel, we make your news our business. My name is Stephen George, and our sign language interpreter tonight has been Ivy Kamau. Good night.
Everywhere, GBS.